Many cats, ooh, many cats. I can't do the pop.
Welcome to the Many Cats Talk for GAConf 2026. So, Many Cats Studios was created as a way to help bridge the gap between disabled people like myself and the games industry, which I love so much. We'll get into a little bit later about how Many Cats got started and how we got to the point that we are now with this fully fledged professional accessibility team that works across so many different projects for so many different people, whether that's publishers or developers, indies to AAA. We really are getting into the front lines of helping out the teams that make games to help them make better games and more accessible games. In this talk, I will go into how I founded Many Cats and the reasons behind that. Then we will hear from Mathew and talking about what it means to be in a junior role. That will be followed by Harriet, who will be talking about the services that we provide, and then we will all talk about the future of accessibility. I'm Chris Goodyear, the CEO of Many Cat Studios, and it's been a part of my life as much as any of my other games career.
Yeah.
So I think an important thing to understand Many Cat Studios is to kind of understand me too. So how do you understand who I am? I'm always identified as disabled. I have always been deaf or hard of hearing. Well, I wear hearing aids in both my ears, and it was always something I've been quite forthright with. Especially as I got older, as I grew with more confidence about disability and myself. I've always had to sort of work. I've been one of those people from low social economic background that always means you drilled into you that working is important and a part of your life. So, you know, being a disabled person and getting into these workplaces that I've worked from, where I worked in tourist shops to, you know, when I got my first actual professional jobs, which was working in fostering and adoption of all places. After university, and it was very interesting to sort of see around me going, oh, I'm good at my jobs, what I do, but there's always a little bit of layer of difficulty that maybe other people aren't experiencing, and I just, you know, took a long time to figure out why, and it literally came down to disability and inclusion in the workplace of it all. Even like in the early days of, like, you know, when I was right after uni and sort of honing my professional skills by going into an internship which involved in social services and adoption and fostering, it was a lot of, like, you know, phone work, and, you know, back in the day when phones still existed, kids, it meant, you know, I had to use this uncomfortable ability to sort of have a phone up to my ear, which has obviously a hearing aid in, and realising it's not quite as clear sounding as what I had from, you know, later on in life, where it comes with video calls and I'd be able to lip read and things like that. I went to university to try to get into games, and as many of us are very aware, it is a challenging field to get into, and you just get your first big break. And when I got my first big break, I still had the same experiences of the workplace that I experienced in other things, like, you know, marketing and the social services that I did. So it's a common thread throughout any industry, any working situation. So, you know, you can give yourself a bit of a sign of relief. Games companies, you know, it's not like it's a very specific games thing that the workplace has its own challenges, but it was always a factor that was going to be a part of it. If you want more disabled voices in your workplaces, you have to acknowledge what that means to be a disabled person in your workplace. So that's a very convoluted way of going, like, the seeds of Many Cats were sort of being sowed and coming into my mind about what I wanted to do in life. The situation was my university came with this incubator program, which is all about creating businesses and creating your own little startups. 2016, 17, around then, this opportunity came up, and the university was sort of advertising, and I thought, should I take a chance? Do I want to do this sort of thing? And I couldn't see anybody around me in terms of other social impact groups, other, you know, sort of non-profits actually doing things around disability. And that includes, back then, there weren't really as much focus on neurodiversity as well. So I was like, what am I waiting for? Maybe I should take a chance and do it. So I kind of did a smart/stupid thing. I actually left my first games job and went to this incubator and tried to come up, you know, with this business plan and figuring out it all. And, you know, actually, I was very successful. I pitched my business and I was successful in securing a small grant to be able to start up and try it out. I was very fortunate that I succeeded in getting those grants. So even just like £5,000 for me, who coming from that low social economic background, was a massive thing for me. And, you know, it was money I've never even seen in a bank account before, sort of thing. So it was big. And, you know, one of the early days of me pitching Many Cats at that start was all about, how do I connect disabled and neurodivergent people to the games industry? How do we create opportunity and inspiration for the people out there, in young people, for schools and school leavers to go, oh, games could be a valid career for me? Because I just saw that the industry needed more of us to get in, sort of thing. So that early days was Many Cats was all about focusing about the schools of sort of early inspiration to kind of like early career development sort of thing. And yeah, like I created a business that I thought was all about a grant-based income. I thought, oh, I'll apply to grants, I'll get the money and be able to do the projects, the social-minded projects that I want to do. So growing like the education, the inspiration, the career guidance, and just get the funding and sort of thing. So yes, I was successful in getting sort of other little bits of fundings here and there. So I got help through Digital City, which is Teesside-based help, as well as like a social enterprise community sort of grant, which was from Unlimited in the UK, which I got £5,000 from. So again, slowly building up money to sort of do this thing. But again, I was obviously on my own doing this, which obviously it's a challenge in itself. And it was always really small sort of things, events in the sort of northeast, working to schools, the school networks, and creating like little events or assisting in events that they were doing for career guidance and stuff like that. So again, really sort of simplistic now, but it always was also very vital, because those things didn't exist. Games weren't going to SEN schools and actually talking to students and saying, hey, you could get career in games. Even like in like the what I wanted to do, the first sort of inspiration, I thought, oh, events were really important. Connect with my fellow disabled developers and fellow disabled people that are working in games. So even those early days, I was sort of trying to create events to talk about it. Important that building up that connection, and that was the basis of a lot of like early day success. Because I didn't realise just how funny. I know now just how important community is in parallel to accessibility, and even in inclusion. Like it's all sort of connected. Of course it would be, it's obvious now, but back then maybe I didn't realise just as much of how powerful that was and how powerful the tool that was creating was. So I'm first to say it was obviously very challenging in those early days. I was very new to being a business owner, leader, and I didn't really know as much as about funding, grant funding, because it's a very nuanced thing to be able to succeed at getting massive grants, and I just wasn't that well connected to get those things. So even those early days, it was kind of like successful but not sustainable, I think is the best way to describe it. There was successes and highlights, but also the challenges I think were substantial, and I have to acknowledge that. So it's like, why didn't it work then, Chris? I think you would ask, why wasn't Many Cats working in that first iteration of how we existed? I went for grant funding, which is obviously a bit unsustainable in the grand scheme of things, unless you get a massive grant of like $250,000, $500,000 sort of thing. You're just not going to sustain a multi-year approach, and a lot of these social changes need multiple years to really hone the social impact that we create. I am very fortunate that I've existed for many years now as Many Cats, and we start to see some changes, whether that is more and more people are getting seen and heard from whether they're connected via Many Cats, or they're just kind of signposting to other people. And it's very important that we do that, because it's part of how we build up this community, this great community. I also had a big realization, and we just started to get that professional games experience, but it wasn't enough really to sustain a business and know what to do in a business sense and do that for other people. And so I realised that, and that's why I had Many Cats kind of on the side as the volunteering thing while I went away and got career focused help in terms of getting other jobs and working for other people to collect those skills. So that's why I ended up in production and getting really great, amazing skills. And a lot of times with those early days of Many Cats, why it failed, I just couldn't focus on it, because at the end of the day I wasn't living at home, I was on my own, I didn't have financial support from anybody, so I had to always get like a second job. So it doesn't mean those early days of Many Cats Studios was a colossal failure, and it doesn't mean that all those things that we did were throwaway or not needed. So we had a lot of, when I realise now, when I look back at it, I didn't realise just how many hidden successes we had in all that failure. I created a podcast to really highlight disabled voices, and that was really well received. I still do the Many Cats experts page to highlight other accessibility people that are coming up, whether they're trying to get established or they are very established, and that has helped lead to people getting work. So we launched our social impact campaign called Impact, and that was really about highlighting specific people, a cohort of 6 each year to really, hey, disabled people in the industry isn't a bizarre thing. We do exist, you're just not looking hard enough. So we created all these different things, these resources that still exist today, and I didn't realise just how important they were to help us now, and realising that the industry definitely needed them because someone paid attention. People were noticing the things that I was creating. That's why we got noticed. So this past year has changed because the resources that we created in those early days of Many Cats meant we was able to create this Many Cats version 2. And this is what we do now. We are professionals that have accessibility knowledge and skill that can support developers, publishers in their accessibility journey, in their development journey, because this is all about making the best possible games. This is all about making the best possible games for players, for any players and all players. And the strongest part of Many Cats now is the fact that we are so diversely disabled. We represent so much of disability community in just this small little team, and I want to grow that. I want to keep making sure that we're adding more and more voices into the mix to be available for people to hire us, to have that diversity in accessibility. And this is kind of the main thing of this past year that was successful, because of the fact that we are different people, multiple voices. It's not just one voice that's got to be so careful to acknowledge the rest of the representation of accessibility, but having these different voices backing each other up, supporting each other, strengthening where we may be weak, or sort of getting that sort of passing the parcel to make sure that the pieces of us together make this super strong, high quality thing. So even from the past year, it has changed because the industry changes, and that's why the accessibility field needs to change. And I recognised that and was able to create this sort of service. And the whole point of what Many Cats can do compared to other consultancy or freelancers is the fact that we're basically stronger together. We take away the added layer of work and logistics and operational things that some companies just don't have the ability to do for themselves right now. That's why I angle Many Cats as a co-development. It's a service provider now. It's all about treating accessibility with the same respect that art gets, that QA gets. Why shouldn't accessibility not have this as well? And this is why I'm glad that it's getting recognised so much, and the shift is that this is a vital service that's needed. Say, right, I've got a team, or I can get a team together. We have things like dev kits and all the other things that you expect from a professional service, and we have it ready to go, and we are ready, and we can get integrated into whatever team you have, sit on the side, whatever you need. This is what Many Cats does, and this is maybe why we're sort of different. The reason why I feel Many Cats is growing in strength and in success is because we are having that ability to learn and develop ourselves. The biggest weakness in accessibility is you don't give accessibility people enough time to hone their skills, to talk with other people in a long-term period. It's always going to be a place for everybody, really, because that's why the variety is slice of life. But it's also the fact that if we say, give the players, as much adaptable control to the game as possible, and it'll make it as accessible as possible, we should treat that the same as the industry as a whole. We've got to give them options and choice for industry, for the developers, for companies. So whether they need a company like Many Cats, whether they need a user research team, whether they need just a few freelancers, give them that variety, and it makes it a stronger industry, and it gives that chance, more opportunity for all of us, especially us disabled people. So why would I define myself as co-development or a service provider and not just pull on consultancy? I think it's because consultancy had such a dynamic usage in the accessibility field, specifically of obviously what a consultant could mean. I think a lot of misunderstanding about what an accessibility consultant can be, that it becomes a bit blurred, the lines of what is actually happening or what you're providing or doing. So that's why I sort of interjectly use different terms of service provider or co-development or just say consultant, because it's what you do. It's what we do. We tend to do sometimes with disability. Like, I flip between whether saying disabled, calling myself deaf, or calling myself hard of hearing. It's all the same thing at the end of the day. But that's why I give you a sort of piece of advice if you are like, a freelancer at the moment, or you're wondering what consultant you may be. It's somebody asking you to come in and test their game or become like a play tester for their users research session. Like, it may be not relevant to say, oh, I'm an accessibility consultant. It might be more relevant to be like, right, I'm going in to, be a user tester, and they will love me for my subject matter expertise because that's what they lack in their team, and that's why they want to bring me in. And there's no shame in that. Like, that is you being very good at developing yourself professionally because you understand what you are and who you are and what you're selling in a sense. A big thing to have a junior and even like that opportunity is like, helping like people like Matt to have that opportunity to, get their teeth into something. We also took on an intern, which I believe could be the first accessibility intern in games this year. If we don't create these opportunities, we're going to kill off this field. And that's a big challenge for I think we're all facing, is that skills gap coming up and coming up quite fast.
I'm Matt. I am a junior accessibility specialist here at ManyCats. So the major turning point for me when becoming a consultant rather than an advocate or a content creator, you could say, was the ability to go to a company and offer them the service rather than them come to me and go, we would like you for this length of time. I could go to a company, turn around and be like, I can offer you this amount of time, this in return for time, and I will expect this in return. So I could offer them a 10-hour trial play test, a 10-hour test play session with a follow-up report, and I would expect this in return. I had set rates. I had an understanding of what clients were looking for or what I could offer a client, and knew what my time was worth and what my expertise was worth.
I really need to belch as well.
Put that in the recording, just,
So
Just do what we did last time and leave it in.
I mean, this all raw footage is going to be stitched together, and that is the talk about.
just B-roll it, yeah.
What do you think made you more hireable at that point than maybe some others?
I think it's not. Certain people will say it's probably because I'm vocal or because I have quite a obvious presence. I actually think it's down to my approach to how I've learned accessibility. It's very easy to stay in your lane. If you're visually impaired, to stay in the visually impaired lane. If you're deaf or hard of hearing, to stay and specialize in that. But actually, I've kind of taken a bit more of an approach and learned large areas of access, like that accessibility as a whole. I've spent time and energy making sure I understand cognitive, mobility, hard of hearing, as well as the obvious visual impairment, which is kind of obviously my specialty because I have one. It's really easy to just stay in your lane. But I think if you want to be more employable, be more approachable as an accessibility consultant or specialist, I think you need to learn about accessibility as a whole. Professionalism's always a big thing, I think, key-wise, and how you approach developers, how you approach scenarios. They're not going to instantaneously listen to your direct feedback or maybe give you a response. You've got to kind of understand that they're not there to instantaneously fix your problem. They're there to listen to your problem. So when you approached me a year ago offering this role, there was a number of reasons I took it. I think obviously the one is full-time employment. That's amazing. But also it was something new, something you were very open and honest from the start and went, actually, I'm not 100% certain what your role is going to be, but we can work it out together. We can approach the challenge together. And I love that because it wasn't something I'd done before. I was only ever the second person to have a junior role in accessibility. So it was kind of like paving the way for people to follow me and things like that. And you were very honest and open from the start about that. But also it was actually not being on my own. It's something very silly, but when you're freelance, you do spend so much of your time alone or working on your own. And it was actually really a positive thing for me was to get back into being a part of a team, to get back into being part of a business and part of not being sat at home on my own, streaming all the time. With the basic game dev tools, there's a joke of the first morning we had a meeting and Chris went, I'll set you up on Jira. And I turned around and went, what is Jira? And I think his face kind of fell apart of, oh my God, what challenge have I taken on here? It was, learn your basic game dev tools. You don't have to learn how to use them or what necessarily you're going to be doing with them, but learn what they are. And then something I think is really important, I learned this, I knew this anyway, coming from another professional capacity in hospitality, people are busy. If they don't email you back straight away, or the email seems short and sweet, they're not annoyed, they're not angry, they don't not like you. They're just busy. They're probably under a lot of pressure as well and doing lots of different things. So if they reply saying yes and nothing else, it's fine. It's not an issue. Email writing, like it's a different writing an email as the Wobbly Gamer to what it is as Mathew, Allcock, the accessibility specialist. Communication methods. I know it's really hard to scrub up on communication methods if you're not actively talking to someone.
You're not just, again, with you say like not the Wobbly Gamer, and the difference between that and Matt, sort of thing, is like you're now representative of a company as a vendor as well, which changes, that communication style is very different to like just a happy lad. I'm just here to do the accessibility, boys. Football. Make your text bigger. So it's a very different thing to be a representative of a company and be in that position.
When sort of seeing you transition from Wobbly Gamer to Mathew, the junior accessibility specialist, was your tendency to leave calls like a streamer and just leave your chair spinning around as you left? Like, you thought that was absolutely fine to be in a meeting where you could just get up and walk off. It's like, Matt, we're not watching you as streamers anymore.
Yeah, you still get Thomas in the background though. That's them. We can't get rid of that. Something I would like to say as well is I learned quite quickly, like I knew it anyway. I knew you weren't going to like tell me off, but mistakes are allowed to be made. It is okay to make a mistake, and that you can't, like Chris. I think Chris once said to me, "You can't delete the whole of Jira. Stop panicking." Like you're not going to delete. You can't delete the game. They're not going to send you the raw file of the game, are they? You can't make a monumental mistake that can't be fixed. I think a good example of that is me assigning our boss's boss a task on Jira, him messaging me going, "Hi, I don't think this task is for me. It's fine, don't worry." And yeah, it happens. And even he was just like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just unassign me. Don't worry about it." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm really sorry. I've just given you a task." He's like, "Don't. It's fine. It's happened a million times. You're not the first. Carry on. Have a good day." So yeah, mistakes can be made and they are okay to make. A lot of people with disability do suffer from isolation a bit, and actually being part of a team like this does kind of bring you out of that. It's great to have that kind of social connection, but also you've got people professionally that can help you. Like I've learned so much from you and Harriet. Don't tell her I was nice. Give me an M, give me an A, give me an N, give me a Y. Done. Many cats. We need 6. Can you employ 5 more people to make it work, please?
No, that was just the word many. You still can't spell. Cats was not in that at all.
I've never done the... How do you do a T? Can you... I am not flexible enough to do a T. But a T, that's not a T. You've got the head in the middle.
That's why they call it a T pose in animation. It's a T. Harriet Frayling. I'm a senior accessibility specialist here at Manycats. Outside the game accessibility, consulting is almost always done by like seasoned professionals. So they've honed their craft to provide expertise, and they're usually hired for that express purpose of solving a specific problem that's within their field that they consult in. But within game accessibility, a lot of people who refer to themselves as a consultant, I used to do the same, are usually disabled, hired on that ad hoc freelance basis to kind of be a repository of insights into lived experience or life as a disabled gamer. Consultancy could look like it could be delivering a talk to, like a lunch and learn. It could be taking part in an inclusive design workshop. It might be, like a preview of a game where you get to give accessibility insights. Now, being able to leverage skills that I did not have the opportunity to really showcase in my role as a consultant. Like I didn't realize this, but I'm great at report writing. Really great, and I love doing it. But it's not something you really get the opportunity to do as a consultant. You don't get to like audit a game and sort of provide the sort of like actionable analysis that is necessary to help that game become more accessible, to give developers the raw information they need to start making decisions and start like, you know, a roadmap and prioritization and things like that. One of the advantages of being able to be part of a team and like provide it as like a team-based service is there's like different things you can do that you can't do as an individual. As an individual, you're brought in and you test maybe like one day. You might be brought in a few times a year, but it is not like in-depth testing. And it's largely insight-based, which is super valuable. And, you know, user research and play testing is an important part of development. But having a team that's available to do regular testing, to measure those metrics, to help a team stay on track with its accessibility goals, to be able to do the market research, to be able to do comparative analysis, to be able to have that lived experience expertise combined with professional expertise, it sort of marries together to provide sort of like a, you know, like having your own accessibility team without having to have your own accessibility team, basically. I think over the last year, the biggest challenges that we've faced, there's been a few. I think finding our voice as a team and like as a company and sort of really realizing that as a team, you know, as individuals within that team of like, oh, we do cool stuff. Oh God, that's us. We do that. And having that realization and feeling that in the feedback we've had from clients and having the feedback from clients that sort of go, no, this is the right thing. We are doing the right thing. We are need. People want this kind of service. We have the feedback that proves that. So, like, we're not necessarily doing anything that isn't already done in an accessibility team. What it is that because we're sort of like you know, like a mobile hairdresser but for accessibility, we'll come to your house. You have to learn the vibe of each client and how they work, and then apply what is a rapidly evolving industry to that in a way that they could use that as a metric by which to measure themselves and their success, even though in about 3 years' time, or even a year's time, even 6 months' time, the way we describe something or a new feature or something like that will have changed. As a service provider, you are an outsider. So you need to really be aggressive on trying to get involved in the culture and understand that sort of like the way everybody works and have something unified without it being preachy or like you're telling people how to do their jobs, you know, or anything like that. So if we're coming on to a project and there has been accessibility work done before, one of the easy starts what I like to do is to check for any guidelines or systems already put in place to try and figure out if people are already using something. Like, even if it's just, we have a link to the game accessibility guidelines in a folder somewhere, or it's on the SharePoint or something like that, like something that shows that there has been a journey begun, halfway through or finished, right? If they had an accessibility person that unfortunately no longer works there, to see if there's any leftover accessibility champions, you know, things like that, to sort of see what's left so that we can work with what's there.
All we can do at the end is really think about the future, and it is a big question when you sort of think about it yourselves, even like after, if you've been to GAConf and thinking about all these amazing talks that you're learning from, and it's about, well, what happens next, you know, what will this year look like, you know, what will the next 6 months bring for accessibility and games.
My mind's gone blank.
Future.
Blank. Future, nothing.
I do honestly think, like we've spoken in this talk, is the importance of having the choice in service providers and making sure that there is opportunity for us to exist, for other, you know, accessibility people to exist and hone their skills to.
I think a company, you know, a service like Manycats and a company like Manycats is really important. Realistically, you're thinking about it really critically. I was never likely to get a job in games in the specialisms I was looking into. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because there are unfortunate limitations to what people can perceive of someone without, you know, it's that age-old chicken egg, like, how much development experience do you have? I see you've consulted for years, but what does that mean? CATS does provide like a certain degree of like actual development experience, being able to work in the games industry, doing accessibility in an opportunity that would never have happened otherwise. You know, other companies just wouldn't be able to have that vision to see what the future could be with disabled people providing the expertise.
To see more people do is involve disabled people in the whole game development cycle, not just bringing in consultants on short-term periods for days, for a few hours. We need to see more involvement across the whole cycle, from development through to launch, where people are getting teams like ourselves involved, or others.
That unique thing of having, you know, technically minded disabled people being able to provide this sort of like support role while also having, you know, legally required disabled expertise, which does that double duty.
And that's the thing with, like, in the future, like this why Many Cats Studios has done well this past year, and it will continue to do well, is because of this sort of development of core skills and core teams like we have at Many Cats, to sort of bring it to you and go, you don't have to spend, you know, 6 months, you know, or ages, or, you know, really create a, you know, different freelancers together and see what if they work together. I know that my team works well together, and I know that I can develop more teams to work on different projects.
I would love for it to be basically that we have more disabled people working at Many Cats. So we kind of, in a way, have to kind of be a bit activisty about it and kind of just be present and be like, no. When we say nothing about us without us, we mean us, you know? It's not just like a soundbite. It's no, physically us. We're right here.
So don't delay. Get in touch with Many Cats Studios and find out what sort of cats team you can have to help you with your accessibility journey. Email us on hello@manycats.uk, or you can search for us on our website at www.manycats.uk. So a lot of people do ask me time and time again, like, you know, why is it called Many Cats Studios? And there's a really important reason for why it's called Many Cats Studio, and that literally was because back then in 2016...
Text on screen reads for John.
Goodbye, good friends, goodbye. 'Cause now it's time to go. But hey, I say, well, that's okay, 'cause we'll see you very soon, I know.